mostly Americans, they're just really not taught. They're not taught their origins and their culture. We're taught like American Revolution, Civil War, World War II, World War II, World War II, World War II, Vietnam, back to World War II, and then maybe the Cold War. Like that's basically American history.
Well, that's so. What's before the Civil War?
American Revolution. Like basically
Yeah,
the
no, I mean going backward. That's the first thing you study about American history.
it's pretty
Well,
much
go
it's pretty
Plymouth
much
Rock a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Was the first
there's you learn
settlers.
about yeah Plymouth Rock, like the very beginnings,
Mm.
but like it's like big chunks of history are just missing, and it's not that it's unavailable. It's all there. Like you could take a history course like early 19th century America. I'm sure that exists. Like, you know, they do have records of that. They have records of pre-American Revolution. It's just not taught in school. So if you want to learn it, you have to go out of your way to learn it.
Well, that's a shame. Should be taught at school because that's the way you actually get people interested into it.
Yeah.
If you just mention it, because sometimes not everybody has a natural inclination to learn something, but sometimes people just need a push, and then they go, oh, interesting. Let me. I mean, it happens to me with a lot of stuff that maybe in the past I wasn't even interested about, but then someone mentioned it. Especially when I see someone very passionate about something, something that I don't know, there's this mechanism that's in my head that says, if this person is so interested in it and so passionate, maybe it's worth, uh, you know, uh, checking it out, checking these things out, and then I do, and I get curious, and I start learning stuff, and that's how you do it.
Well, I
So I
think.
think that's
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say I think history is probably in general the most interesting subject for most people. Like you pull the X amount of people. Like, do you want to learn geometry? Do you want to learn chemistry? Do you want to learn music
Music.
theory? Do you want to learn sewing and cooking? Do you want to learn history? You want to learn English? I think most people would be interested by history.
Especially if you realize that, for example, to study history means actually to exercise your brain to understand the relationships between cause and effects. And the relationship between cause and effects works in every single aspect of our life, from science to even storytelling. When you see a movie that works well and you see a movie that does not work well, it all comes down to the relationships cause effect in between the scenes of that movie, right? So like when you do film school, when you study screenwriting, they always tell us, okay, when you write a story, you have to put the scenes together organically. So this happens because of this, and this happened because of this. And that's exactly how science works, and that's how history works. So history is not just, okay, in 1920 this happened, in 1925 no, it's in 1920 this happened because before that this happened. So that's why I study history. I think it's important, and it's important to study it the right way, so I'm making people understand that everything is related to a cause effect relationship. Like even what happens now, it's not happening because somebody says, okay, let's make this happen. No, it's always a consequence of what happened before, like every single thing. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
No, I understand. Well, yeah, because the thing is with let's say like an event happens in history, like uh the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. For all
Yeah.
intents and purposes, that's what started World War One. But World War One was extremely complicated, and all of the countries that were warring, all the leaders were blood relatives. So it wasn't just some guy died and then all these countries, we're gonna fight each other over that. That's just that's the simplified version because you got 8 weeks to teach the course, and you can only cover so much, so you have to abridge it. And to me, I think that removes a lot of history, and it rewrites it, and then
Mm.
people don't have an understanding of history. Because I always ask people, and we don't need to do the first part, but I'll say, like, do you know what caused World War II? And they'll say yes, and then I'll say, do you know what started World War I? And then most don't even know about the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. But and then when they do, and I'll say, "Is that all?" And they're like, "Wait, there's more." Like, I don't know. I haven't been taught it, and whenever I look into it, it is so mind-bogglingly complex. Like, there is just so much going on, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on, like with the Lusitania, and then that's where the Federal Reserve was established, or income tax rather. There's a lot of suspicious things surrounding that event. But in America, when did you come over to America?
I was in 2015.
Okay, so relatively recently. So yeah,
Yeah.
you weren't educated in America as far as like your elementary
No, no,
school.
no, no. I did my high school and university in Italy.
Okay, right. So in America, we're taught that the Civil War was fought over slavery. I mean, that was a tiny component of it, but that's not at all what it was fought over. And if you ignore all the things prior to that, and just say it's just slavery, it changes the entire context of it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, no, I'm following you. Yeah.
right, yeah, and that's and so if you want you need to tell a story, you need to have a full understanding of the story. Like, let's say uh you're making a character. Like, a character kills a prostitute. Why? Because he's bad. That's not good enough. Because the audience
Yes.
needs to form some kind of connection. And then that's where, well, his mother was a prostitute and used to abuse him. And then now he has deep-seated trauma whenever he sees a prostitute. Like, okay, so there's a little bit more going on. And that's how you make an audience relate to characters. Is you have to give a full context of why anything happens. If I don't care about why a character does something, then I'm not invested in the story you're telling. And it's similar with history. Is if you teach history just kind of bare bones, then it's not interesting, and then people don't get interested in it. And then you can do the same thing with music. If you don't teach things in for what makes them what they are, people don't have any real interest in it. And I think that's why a lot of people, the American education system is extremely broken, extremely flawed. And I think that's why a lot of people don't pursue any kind of education. And I don't mean just from a teaching or collegiate aspect, but just on your own time post high school. Like, people go to college and then they read the book, and then they transfer it to the paper, and they don't actually learn anything. They're just doing what they're told. Because most jobs that you get, you don't really need a college education to do it, unless you're doing some kind of science or law or engineering. You learn how to do it in your first year. The college degree basically just shows that you can do what you're told.
Yeah. I'm unfortunately I have to agree with what you said. Uh, I've noticed it happens when I was working in development for a few companies before COVID. I would read some scripts that would come to my desk. Or even recently, I was a screener for the Austin Film Festival, and I saw some short films of that were submitted. And I thought that they kind of miss the basic of storytelling. It's like it's like um, you can see there's not really a research behind whatever they were talking about. It was just I just say things. I don't know if it makes sense. But to be a filmmaker, like or to be a musician, to be an artist in general, it means that you have to be a constant student. You need to study all the time because you need to read a lot. You need to explore. You need to know what you want to write, what you're talking about, but also the way you want to write it. And to come back to what you were saying, some people just go with the gut, with my emotions. I'm gonna just talk about my emotions. I'm like, okay, but there's a way to do it, and you need to research, you need to study. But this is not encouraged that much now.